First of all, I want to thank Justin and Open Carry, Pennsylvania for having me here today. It always buoys my spirits to be in the presence of American patriots. People who are committed not only to our gun rights, but to all of our rights. We together are the last best hope for American freedom. Give yourselves a round of applause. Now, we've collectively banded together without regard to outside issues and made a loud statement that we will not sit idly by and watch our nation plunged into socialism and its people herded like unarmed, silent sheep. But if the last election is any indication, the Obamacrats have learned that the sheep have teeth like wolves and the sheep herders carry guns. On the 17th of July, 1775, John Adams wrote to his wife, "But a constitution of government once changed from freedom can never be restored. Liberty once lost is lost forever." Now, my greatest fear is that because there is now, at this moment, no direct federal threat against our gun rights, that we have become complacent and lazy. When Obama and Biden were pushing hard from the White House, we pushed back in force and loudly. I'm sure that my buddy, one-term Toomey, knows that he has absolutely no chance of being reelected in this state. But the enemies of freedom like Bloomberg and Watts and Pelosi are far from asleep. Now, last year, I spoke in Perry Square, and I quoted Commodore Perry when he said, "We have seen the enemy, and they are ours." We had won a great victory in court. Later on in Harrisburg, we would go on to win an even greater victory, given preemption to lawsuits. And now, we're fighting for our lives in court to keep those victories. Sadly, I believe that we have become so complacent that I must now quote Pogo when he said, "I've seen the enemy, and he is us." Friends, now is not the time to let down our guard, but rather to push harder than ever before. Each patriot must become a Second Amendment activist. You can't rely on Kim, you can't rely on me, you have to rely on yourself. But friends, I want to give you some good news, other than the belonging to the Sheriff's Association. It's only $2 a month. Becoming a Second Amendment activist is easier than you think, and it's a whole lot more fun than it ought to be. Let me go through a couple of things that you can do to become a Second Amendment activist. Number one, go to the range and shoot. Now, it astounds me when I come to rallies like this and I hear someone say, a gun guy or a gun gal, "I haven't gone shooting in months." Brother, you don't need to be marching in an open carry march. You need to get your rear end down to the range and go shooting.
Amen.
As a matter of fact, if you haven't been shooting in the last month, get out of here. Go find the range. It's open right now. A right not exercised is a right lost. Number two. Take a new or a non-shooter shooting. you're going to the range more often, with a little bit of pastoral guilt on your shoulders, take somebody with you. Take somebody who is a non-shooter with you. Put a firearm in their hands, and if you don't feel qualified to teach them, talk to Sheriff Foy. He'll go with you. He'll even take and show you the range. That's awesome, brother. For every non-shooter that you take shooting and they turn into a shooter, guess what? We immediately made one new ally. One new pro-gun voter. One new pro-gun voice. And all you had to do was go out and have fun at the range for the afternoon. Number 3. Put your seatbelt on for this one. Take a kid shooting. Take a kid shooting. Take your son, take your daughter, take your grandson, take your granddaughter, your niece, your nephew. As a matter of fact, get really radical. Peel off $125, become a range safety officer certified by the National Rifle Association, or even a little bit more, and become a rifle instructor, and then go volunteer your time to the Boy Scouts, or the Girl Scouts, or your church group. And I got news for you. If your pastor tells you that you can't teach shooting to the kids in the youth group at your church, find a new church. Come join mine. We'll all go to the range. It'll be, listen, communion once a month, range time twice. I would like to just say, and no lightness here to it, okay, to Chattanooga and all, okay, but there have been exactly 0 church shootings in my congregation. There's reasons for that. Number 4, support our gun rights organizations. Every last one of them. Look, I know you might not like the NRA. You might not like GOA. You might not like Kim's organization. You might not like Pennsylvania Open Carry. Too bad. Support them anyway. Get over it. Each one of those groups does something to protect your rights. And your wallet should be overflowing with membership cards. You'll go out and you'll spend $30 or $40 on a couple of boxes of ammunition, but you won't throw a $5 bill in FOAC's jar. Shame on you. Shame on you. You won't renew your NRA membership because you don't like the corporate whatever. Stop it. Get over it. Support them all. They need your support. Number 5, carry your gun. I know this is shocking. I mean, you all are carrying a gun today, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, there's 3 people in an open carry rally that are carrying their gun. Everybody's like thinking, oh, I locked mine in the car.
I left one of mine in the car.
You need to not just carry your gun to an open carry rally, you need to carry it every single day of your life. We are so blessed here in Pennsylvania that it is relatively easy to get a LTCF. There's a lot of states that is not so easy, and I'm going to go into that in just a minute. Carry your gun, and I want to tell you why. I don't want your dying words to be, I wish I'd been carrying my gun. And every single time a good guy with a gun puts down a bad guy with a gun, it takes away the rhetoric from the anti-gunners. I want you to know that Shannon Watts said that no good guy with a gun has ever stopped a bad guy with a gun. If that was a true statement, there would be bad guys with guns just running around all over the country killing everybody because there would be no good guys with guns stopping them. But if you don't have your firearm with you and the shooting starts, you are a victim just like anybody else. Number 6, never ever let up on any politician. We're coming into yet another election cycle. Now, you may think that in an off year that the guy running for mayor or town council doesn't have a lot of power. But that is the person who next year or the year past that is going to run for assembly or state senate or Congress or governor or president. They all start somewhere. So when you go to the local farmers fair next weekend or down to the farm show that I guess you're going to, the politicians are all going to be out there. They're going to be glad handing. They're having a big smile on their face. And I want you to ask them a simple question. How do you feel about enacting new sensible gun laws in our country? And use those words, because those are the words of the liberal. Say, hi, yeah, oh, you're running for mayor. What do you think about enacting new sensible gun laws in our town? And if they ever give you an answer, anything other than I think we've got more than enough gun laws, maybe too many, you need to look them square in the eye and say, I'm a Second Amendment activist and I'm going to tell 20 of my friends that you're an anti-gunner and not to vote for you. You'll watch the smile run away from their face. And I'm going to tell you the reason why, because if they won't stand up to you and say, I don't want any new gun laws in this country when they're down at the farm show, they will enact them when they get into whatever office that they have. I'm getting there. And I want to tell you what happens when you let gun control laws creep in an inch at a time. This, and I'm so glad the sheriff was there. Apparently here in Venango County, if you wish to purchase a pistol, you go into the gun store, you fill out a short form, hopefully the instant check works. You hand the man some money, and you leave with your pistol, right?
Yes.
If you wish to get an LTCF here in Venango County, you go in, you fill out your paperwork, they take your picture, and 15 minutes later, you walk out with a card. That's better than Northampton, brother. I had to wait 32 days. But let's talk about one of our neighbors. Now, I live on the eastern side of the state, and 73 miles away is a place called New York City. Let's go into what it takes to purchase a pistol in New York City. And all of these laws were enacted one at a time. First of all, you're going to need 2 money orders payable to the New York City Police Department. One for, you ready for this? $340. That's for the application. And one for either $94.25 for electronic fingerprints or $105.25 for ink fingerprints. For those of you who did not go to public schools, we are up to $445, or the price of a brand new, decent pistol. But you can't buy it yet. You got a piece of paper that you can fill out. Then you're going to need to go and get 2 photographs, passport size, 1.5-inch square color photos. You're going to also need your birth certificate to prove your date of birth, or your military record, U.S. passport, or baptismal certificate. You're also going to need proof of citizenship or your alien registration. And if you weren't born in the United States, you must submit your naturalization papers or other evidence of citizenship or your alien registration card. And for those living here less than 7 years, you must submit, you ready for this? A good conduct certificate from your country of origin. For those of you who proudly served in the United States Marine Corps or some of the women's services, you'll need your DD-214. There's 3 Navy guys in the back going to kill me later. Sorry. The guys from the Air Force didn't see anything wrong with that. Okay. Proof of residence. Now this can be your real estate tax bill, ownership shares in a co-op or condo or a lease, and you may also be asked to bring your driver's license, New York State income tax return, or a utility bill. Also, you're going to need an arrest summons order of protection information related to question 23. This is even if the case was dismissed or the record sealed. Okay, if the case is dismissed, that means it was an invalid arrest. You weren't guilty of anything, but they still want to know about it. And you've got to bring that paperwork with you. For anything other than a parking ticket, which you also have to bring, which is called a summons in lieu of arrest. If you've ever gotten a parking ticket in New York, you'll need to tell them about that, because you might not be qualified to own a firearm in New York City if your meter ran out. If you wish to have that firearm anywhere but your residence, say like in your place of business, you'll need to bring your business license and proof of business ownership. And if for some reason you think you're going to get a carry permit, this is not for a carry permit. You're going to need a letter of necessity, but don't bother, you're not getting a carry permit. They don't issue them. Please note, you must bring the originals, not copies of the supporting documents. Also note that your application and any addendum must be notarized. Included with the application. I hope you're getting this. I hope this is sinking in.
I never want to move.
You're going to need the following letters, and these letters must also all be notarized. First, a request for pre-exemption. I have no idea what this is, but if you do, you need one, and you better get it notarized. An affidavit with familiarity with the rules of law, which states that you're familiar, and each one of these, okay, New York City Title 838, Licensee Responsibilities, NYS Article 35, Deadly Force, NYS 265, Criminal Possession of Firearms, NYS Article 400, Licensee Responsibilities, Rules regarding safety, locking devices, trigger locks, NYC Charter 18, public safety zones included with applications, U.S. Title 18, persons prohibited from possessing firearms included with the application, and the NYPD pamphlet on terrorism and suspicious activity. And have them all notarized. But wait. You'll also need an affidavit from your cohabitant. If you live with anyone over the age of 18, they must complete this affidavit, and they all have to be notarized. So that means if you and your wife have a couple of kids that just graduated high school, 18 and 19, your wife and your children must also fill out an application and have it notarized. In addition, wait a second, it doesn't end. You'd think it would. In addition, safe guardian affidavit. This designates a person who is responsible for your firearms in the event of your disability or death. Now that you've got all that stuff together, applications must be submitted in person to one police plaza between the hour, Monday through Friday, between 8:30 a.m. and 3 p.m. with an hour out for lunch. Then you wait for the letter, which will take 1 to 3 months. And that letter will identify the officer assigned to handle your application. And they're going to schedule your interview. Now, many people are asked to supply at the interview an affidavit of familiarity with all this other stuff, proof of employment, and a current utility bill. Apparently, this guy had to take and supply a social security card, current bank statements, a 1040 income tax return, along with photos of his home, his marriage license, DMV abstract. Now just call the officer during the hours stated in the letter and schedule an interview. You will also have to get your character reference letters together. Yes, you're going to need to have 3 reference letters from people who have known you for at least 2 years, although sometimes they ask for letters for people who've known you for 5 years, who state that you are of good moral character. The more detailed the letter is and the more personal, the better. And they all have to be notarized. Then once you get all that stuff together and the appointment is set, you get to go on the interview. Look presentable and be prepared. These are some of the questions you might be asked. Why do you want a gun? Where will you store the gun? Where will you store the ammo? Have you ever owned a gun? Is your housemate aware that you're applying for this permit? Will you be transporting the firearm? How will you transport the firearm? Have you ever been assaulted? Has your domicile ever been robbed? When is deadly force permissible? Once you've gone through that, you wait another 1 to 3 months for the approval or denial letter. For those of you who are keeping score, that's 6 months. Then you'll either get your approval or denial letter. And you have 30 days to pick up your purchase authorization. You go, they don't mail this to you. No. You have to go back to One Police Plaza with the original letter, Monday through Thursday, the hours of 9 a.m. to 12 noon. You will be photographed and given your license along with one purchase authorization. You now have 30 days to purchase a handgun from an authorized federal firearms license. Now you are legal to rent or shoot guns in New York City. Now you're going to go buy your gun. You can purchase your firearm from any FFL, but purchases made out of state must be transferred to an FFL in New York City, not the outlying boroughs. No. And you can trust me when I tell you that the transfer fees are unbelievable. And by the way, firearms costs in New York, not cheap, no discounts. New guns must be shipped with spent casings fired from the manufacturer, contained in a sealed envelope. Used guns should be marked by the shipper as such. Make sure you fill out the BATFE form, get a receipt, have the FFL fill out the purchase authorization form, and every 90 days you may purchase one pistol or revolver. No more. Now, once you get the gun, you thought it was over, right? No. Let's see. Okay, bottom line, you have to take that gun, guess where? Back to One Police Plaza, so that it can be inspected to make sure that it complies with all New York regulations. Bring the receipt from the firearm, 2 copies. You get to keep the original, they get the other one. Your purchase authorization and your firearm unloaded, trigger locked, no mag in the gun, no ammo on your person in a locked case, back to One Police Plaza, Monday through Thursday between the hours of 12 noon and 3 p.m. Your gun will be inspected, the serial number recorded. They will put the gun's make, model, and caliber and serial number on your gun license and hand it to you. Now make sure you verify the information, especially the serial number, that it's correct, because even if they make the mistake and it doesn't match, you are now a felon. And by the way, you can only purchase ammunition for the guns listed on your license. So if I wanted to go and buy Justin a box of .45 caliber shells so he could go shooting this afternoon, no. These laws were all enacted one at a time. I read this and I reread it. I said, do I want to go through the whole thing? And I said, you know what, I think I have to. I want you to see, and that is the New York City definition of shall not be infringed. 6 months out of your life, heaven knows how many hours going back and forth to one police plaza. I'll get to you. Almost, close to $500. It's got to be over $500 by the time you get all those pictures and notary things and getting your friends to write letters and all this other stuff. And then the only place you can keep it is in your house. That's not anywhere near what our founding fathers talked about. I'm sorry.
You also forgot every gun that they own has to be stamped on the back of their concealed carry permit. So they also have to take it back and make sure that they have it written down on the back of their permits.
On your ownership, ownership, it's on there. I mentioned that, but maybe I skipped over it fast.
So yeah, you have to go back and pay $10 to have them print out what you own.
It's not. That is not a carry permit. You have that, Sheriff? It is not a carry permit. You just get to buy one. That's it. And they'll register it. They're gonna make sure they have the serial. And I can't imagine why they would want to have the serial number for every firearm in the city, unless they were getting ready to confiscate them and wanted to know exactly where they were located. You know what? If you don't want that to happen here in Pennsylvania, if you don't want that to happen other places in America, it's time for us, all of us, to pull together in unity and demand real common sense. With all those strict gun laws in New York, it remains one of the highest crime cities in America. And as a matter of fact, every city where they have strict draconian gun laws in place is a high crime area. As a matter of fact, they have sickening murder rates because the only people who have guns are the people who shouldn't have guns in the first place. And the people who should have guns to defend themselves aren't allowed to get them because they take and drown people in a sea of paperwork and laws that make absolutely no sense whatsoever. It's high time that we had real common sense crime control. Ronald Reagan said this: we must reject the idea that every time a law is broken, society is guilty rather than the lawbreaker. It's time to restore the American precept that each individual is accountable for his actions. No, our fight is far from over. It's just beginning. By exercising our rights whenever possible and holding every politician to accountability, by getting out there and actively being shooters and actively being activists, we who are patriots will hold at bay the socialist ideals that are so rampant in liberalism and Washington and New York and California. All tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for people of good conscience to remain silent. Now that's true today, and it was true when Thomas Jefferson said it. So I've got to ask you now and demand of you to be of good conscience and be loud. Will you fight?
Yes. Yes.
Will you fight?
Yes.
Will you fight?
Yes.
Fallen lava, you want them? Come and take them.